Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio Town. So in the previous episode we spent a lot of the time upgrading Fracum, the oil outpost, to improve the production of all things oil, including most importantly advanced circuits. And so now that we've increased the production rate of those, we were able to much more quickly get together all the supplies needed to make a nuclear power plant, basically, all the different little bits for it. And so today that is what we're going to try and set up. So we've got some centrifuges and we'll plonk those down. We already have been mining the nuclear fuel for a while, or the uranium ore, I guess. It's not quite nuclear fuel yet. And that's to build up a good supply so that we can process it nice and quickly and get as much fuel as we can in the shortest amount of time, because the issue with the way that uranium works is that you get two different kinds of uranium when you process uranium ore, and one of them is extremely rare. Unfortunately, this whole thing gets interrupted because we have quite a serious attack down in the south. The biters just will not stop trying to interrupt everything I'm doing, and they've got an attack a train that was on its way to Newton, causing quite a bit of damage to one of the wagons, but luckily the train managed to escape before they did any more damage. And so we're going to have to take a momentary break to go and deal with that. Luckily, we've already got the little bit of processing set up. We are now processing the uranium ore into the various uranium components, the two different isotopes, and it will take a while to get the rarer one in good enough quantities to start making a decent amount of nuclear fuel with it. And so it's a good enough time to get distracted and go kill some biters while that is underway. And we really need to. Once again, they've been expanding and they've been getting into places that they really shouldn't be getting into. They end up west of Julbra. I think that's not happened yet, but it happens later in the episode. And already you can see they're trying to get over to the southwest desert. They really love that place, and they just will go to any lengths to set up a base over there. So we have to make sure to stop them before they get into that big open space where they can just start expanding like crazy. And that's the thing, the way that the expansion works means that they really do just sort of multiply at an exponential rate, because each base has a certain time frame within which it will launch a colonization party, I think is the way it works, if I remember the settings rightly. And so the sooner you deal with them, the better. And when they're about to get into a large open area where they can just start to spread without anything stopping them, that's when you really need to make sure that they don't do that and cost you even more time later on. So once again, I'm pushing them back to the southeast, but I'm not going to spend the entire episode dealing with them. I do want to get the nuclear power up and running before we do any sort of proper attacks against them, but I think the time for building a wall in the southeast is approaching. They are being a significant pain, particularly from that direction, northeast as well, of course, from every direction that I allow them to be, basically, and the sooner we stop that, the better. And I've noticed one of the reasons that they've been getting so far in the direction of the southwest desert is there is a little bit of a gap in the lake that is quite easy for them to get to. I think that's what they've been using, and hopefully by putting a couple of turrets in that gap, we will deal with a couple of colonization parties before they arrive. And what I've done is I've made sure not to put a wall in there, because I think if there was a wall, they might instead try going around. I think they would still try going through, but what I did was left out the wall so that they would definitely see no reason not to go through that particular gap, and then they would encounter the turrets and be dealt with instead of making it and setting up a new base. We'll see how well that goes. Anyway, I've hopped over to West Point for pretty much the only thing that I come over to West Point for at the moment, which is more stone. For whatever reason, I've set up the stone mining here. It's entirely because there was a stone deposit near here, and this is just where I put the smeltery. And in fitting with the sort of the way towns is supposed to work, for now this will remain the main stone processing place. It doesn't do much. We basically just dump some stone in, and then one furnace very slowly works through it, but it's enough for our needs. And if it stops being, then it'll be more motivation to set up that stone town. Once we actually have the time, these biters are really causing a lot of trouble right now. I don't have a spare 2 seconds to set up a new town before they start running in and blowing everything up again. Anyway, I happened to be passing by Julbra when I finally remembered to remove this bit of wall here that was not really necessary. I don't know if it's really going to make much difference moving it. I mean, it was starting to be broken through, so I guess now they've got to deal with the main wall of Julbra. But what I do to make sure they can't get around the back of Julbra is set up a couple of extra turrets along the northern edge here. But yep, they are advancing in the northwest as well, what with the massive gap in the wall there that we never did finish filling in. We'll have to get on with that pretty soon. And it will definitely help to get on with that, because then that is one of 3 major incursion directions, I guess, dealt with. Anyway, I've been noticing that the power issues that we were starting to have last episode are not actually because of a lack of steam engines. It is actually a lack of coal. The coal is not getting to all the boilers, some of them are not active, and so fixing the coal should hopefully fix the power to a certain degree. It is still the plan to very shortly get the nuclear power operational so that the coal power isn't necessary anymore, but seeing as we've been distracted from that and this is a quicker fix, we might as well just run through Southbridge and just quickly increase the density of the miners so there's enough coal running through. Get the belts running as fast as possible, and that should be enough for the outpost. Now, spoiler, this doesn't work. As it turns out later in the episode, the issue is actually the throughput of the belt rather than the supply of Southbridge. Though I believe Southbridge was becoming a problem as well. All of the miners were running, there weren't any backed up belts, so it seems like either it's a periodic thing of they would have backed up shortly after once the train had been gone for a while. But I think it was the case that this was basically a two-pronged issue of we were running out of coal supplies overall, but also the fact that there is only one belt running from the station in Colbury to the boilers, and that's not enough. It needs to be two for them all to be running, and so we continue to have the power issues, but they're not particularly crazy. It's something like 20% of the power demands not being met, and seeing as we're about to set up the nuclear power, I decide to just get that sorted and deal with all the other, well, I guess not deal with the coal stuff because it won't matter anymore. But it seemed like I might as well get the coal mining running a little bit quicker. So that is, I guess, sorted kind of-ish for now, but what we want to do is go grab some more supplies, once again running out, in more ways than one. The main area, the place I always go to the cheaty spot in the middle that I could never quite let go of, it is running out of copper ore, and I've decided not to replenish it. So you can see that the belt there is running down because the supply of copper from Chipton has completely run out. Chipton now gets its copper from Forgedale instead, and so very soon we will be out of copper here, and I will not resupply it. I will then start going to Forgedale to get copper. Though I am thinking that seeing as it will be a little bit awkward to constantly run around loads of different towns to resupply, that I will probably have a station somewhere in the middle, maybe even where the main area thing is now, that I can go to that will have trains delivering various different materials to it so that I can quickly resupply whatever I might need. And that seems like a fair enough way to do it. Otherwise, it's a lot of wandering about one town after another, trying to get all the different supplies I need. Of course, once I've got logistics operational, that sort of thing will be easier, but it'll still be nicer if it's all in one place and I can just hop to that one central location and quickly be resupplied on everything. I probably might make that particular town also the town for that will operate as a train yard. At some point, I've mentioned it before, but at some point, once I actually have the spare time, I will work out. I will basically completely overhaul the train timetables to make them a little bit more, to make them make a bit more sense. At the moment, they're a little bit messy. I just keep bolting new trains onto the side when I could make it so that one train serves more than its current number of purposes. Make everything a bit more clever and less wasteful in terms of how many trips are being made by how many trains. And once that's, I'll need a train yard to park all the trains so that I can reset them all. And then also, I imagine I'll have some trains left over, and so they can stay parked there. And I'll probably always have a couple of spare trains around, like I do in the rail yard back in Rail World. So anyway, I've managed to gather enough materials to make a couple more centrifuges. At the moment, I don't think we're using up as much ore as we're mining, and so I'm going to double up the processing rate so that we're generating the uranium isotopes a lot quicker. And when I check the supply, we do now have some uranium-238. I think 238 is the rare one. Whichever one is the rare one, we now have some of it, a decent amount that we can start making fuel of. Not enough that we can start doing like the enrichment process yet, but we've got plenty of time to build up a supply of 238 before we've managed to research that sort of thing. Gonna need a couple more towns built before we actually have the science packs necessary to do that sort of research. So I'm setting up a little bit of a system here to create the fuel cells, and then behind that a storage system, because of course we'll have a lot of extra 235 that we don't need, and we'll have to store it somehow. So I come up with this system to sort of filter out the two sides and then put them back onto the belts, but now with all the 235 on one side and all the 238 on the other. And you can see it working there, and of course once the belts are full it will then fill up, and we'll make sure to have plenty of chests on there so that we can have we can deal with the excess of 235 we'll be creating. At the moment, I'm really struggling in terms of the steel supply. So for the moment, it's wooden chests, but I will fix that later. At the moment, it's enough. We've put 4 in, so it's the equivalent of 1 steel chest, and that will do for now. I considered there messing about with the belts for the uranium ore, but I decided not to mess with it because at the moment it's a buffer system, and buffer systems are always good if you want to make sure you're mining something as quickly as you can. I think ultimately, well, we can always build more centrifuges, so the limiting factor for how much uranium-238 we can generate is how many miners we have running. And so if we have as many miners as possible running non-stop, then it's the best we can manage, and once we can actually make more centrifuges because we have more concrete and advanced circuits and so on, we'll be able to process the fuel quicker and make sure that we have that 4238 ready for when we finally have the Covarex enrichment process researched. Anyway, it's time to build the reactor itself, and I do have something in mind for how I'm going to build it. Basically, I'm going to build it so it can be expanded, not infinitely. I was originally considering coming up with a design where you could infinitely extend a 2-wide column of nuclear reactors to make the to get the maximum efficiency out of the fuel you're using. But the thing is, I don't think I'll ever need that much power. If I really do, then I can just well, basically it's a lot easier to do a 2x2 square, and then if I really need to, expand to another 2x2 square. And so what I'm doing is building a setup that is easily expandable to a 2x2 square while just having one for the moment, because of course the nuclear reactors are weird in that they use fuel at a constant rate no matter whether you're using the power or not, so you don't want to build any extra nuclear reactors if you don't need to. So for the moment we'll just have the one. We'll see how much power that generates relative to how much we're consuming, and if we need more we'll build a second one, and if we do, it'll quadruple the power production because of the efficiency of having reactors adjacent to each other. So that should all be good. Anyway, we don't quite have it ready yet. What we need at the moment is heat pipes. Because I'm setting it up ready to be expanded, the heat exchangers and so on aren't right next to the reactor, so I do need some heat pipes leading to them. And annoyingly, heat pipes are ridiculously expensive. They use a lot of steel to make, and steel is something we're short of right now. I go back to the main area and try grab some steel, but we were already short on steel, and we'd already looted that for what was there. Luckily, we do have somewhere else where steel is being made. We have a few places really, but this was the nearest one. Newton has 2 furnaces working on it, and we just grab all of the steel it has, and that is enough to make enough heat pipes for our needs. So it's not enough to fully resupply us on steel. We're really struggling for that right now. But again, I'm not going to expand the main area of production. I'm going to, well, I'm going to deal with it until it becomes annoying enough that I'll actually make a separate town for it. If only the biters would stop bothering me enough for me to have time for that. Hopefully it'll be soon enough. But anyway, we have the heat pipes we need. We make exactly how many we need so as not to waste it. And we start putting in the other bits of infrastructure. The loading for the fuel cells, the unloading for the spent fuel cells, power poles, so on and so forth, belts delivering things in. And the belt's in a weird location because I'm future-proofing it, putting it where I'm expecting it to be once things are fully built. So I realise I don't know exactly where it needs to be because I can't be bothered measuring out exactly how many steam turbines it will take. So I just end up sort of half future-proofing it, half not. We'll fix it later. Doesn't matter too much. And the fuel gets delivered over. Now, for the moment, we will end up using up a ton of uranium-238 on making fuel cells. I could come up with a better way of doing it, but I think that by the time we're ready for the Covarex enrichment process, we will have enough in the way of 238 to not worry. I am going to keep bringing in uranium from other locations, not just this deposit. I imagine we'll get through it relatively quickly in our search for more 238, and so we'll have to go elsewhere to get a little bit extra in the way of ore to process here. And the train is already outfitted for that, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. We just need to find a deposit that is near to another town, and we can just have the train pull up there. And there are a couple of deposits, seeing as they've just popped up all over the place. There's one right by Colbury that'll give it something to do once steam power isn't important anymore. And a lot of other places as well, so that shouldn't be a problem. Anyway, it is now running, but it is going to take time for it to actually get up to speed. It takes a whole fuel cell's worth of power to actually get the reactor hot enough for the turbines to even start moving, for it to get to the 500 degrees necessary for the process to start. So I can just wander off and get on with other things. I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing in particular I need to do. I just wait till it's going, and then everything works a little bit quicker because the power is not a problem anymore. And then depending on how much power is being generated, I can work out whether I still need to have the coal system running or not. And then we'll probably shut it down. I mean, if we don't have enough power, we'll add another reactor, and then we will, and it'll be fine. Anyway, we're getting a lot of attacks right now. It's really getting a pain every direction. They've even been attacking Ironwood for one of the first times ever. Ironwood has always been on very good terms with the biters, what with it being built in amongst a forest. But unfortunately, the pollution from other towns has now overtaken the pollution of Ironwood and has reached the biter bases beyond, and they have started to attack there, which is not good, because I've not set up the defences properly, because it's never been in danger. So that could very rapidly become a crisis. I need to keep a very close eye on that. But yeah, every 5 seconds there's another biter attack somewhere, and I go and check where it is to make sure it's not something major. At some point, I can't remember if this has happened yet, but at some point they take out a power pole connecting, I believe, connecting Newton through the south to Flaskmere and Southbridge. Luckily, there's a lot of redundant connections because there's a lot of places where the rails connect up in multiple ways, and I have power poles running along all the rails. There are a lot of backup connections, and so them knocking out one power pole is not too much of a danger. But it is a bit of a worry that they're doing that now. That's not something that they usually do. I'm wondering what their particular motivation for that was. In fact, I should probably go and check they haven't set up a base there, because who knows, they might have. Anyway, I believe the nuclear power is now operational, the steam turbines have got up to speed, and now our power is fine, and it looks like we might be able to deal with shutting down the steam engines. I'm not 100% sure. I guess we'll try testing it next episode and see how it goes. For the moment, I just leave it. The important thing is power is running at full speed again, and that is all good. The nuclear power is enough for now. If we need more, we'll get more. But what with all the biter stuff that's been happening, we need to deal with them more, like, permanently. We need to stop messing about dealing with bases when they become too much of a danger and stopping them being built in the first place. So I've gone over to the northwest wall. We started building this a very, very long time ago, and I basically abandoned it because I decided to go build the one in the southwest instead. I mean, I could have built both, but I didn't want to spend all my time building the wall. But it's become clear that we can't ignore this any longer. We need to get it sorted. So for the first time in a very, very long time, I do a quick inspection of the wall, fix up all the turrets that are damaged, realise I never actually finished putting in all the burner inserters for these, and so I get that sorted, and now I start working out exactly where I'm going to extend the wall to, because we are going to finish it, and then that's one less direction we have to worry about biters coming from. And Julbra can finally stop worrying about being attacked every 5 seconds, because for some reason they just don't care about Fortin. They never attack Fortin. Actually, they do occasionally, but they seem to much more angrily, more fiercely, I guess, care about destroying Julbra, and I don't know why. I guess maybe it's generating more pollution, or it just happens to be in between them and the sort of most of the other towns, but they really like attacking Julbra a lot more than Fortin. And we can't allow them attacking anywhere is the thing, so we're going to finally sort this out, finally finish this particular defensive line, finish this particular war, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. And so I'm just running along putting the turrets in. I think, did I get one wrong there? I think I might have got one wrong there. Oh no, I'm going to have to go back and look at that. Yeah, I'm trying to get the spacing right, 6 spaces between each one so that I can easily fill it in later. The entire reason for that is so that I can make the turrets as dense or as sparse as I need. So with there being a gap of 6, I can put 3 more turrets in that gap and then have it as dense as possible. Or if I don't need it quite that bad, then I can have it with a gap of 2 between each, so on and so forth. Basically, the idea behind it is that if a turret gets destroyed, I'll replace it, and then I'll double the density of the turrets in that particular area. And then if it still gets destroyed, then I'll double the intensity again. That sort of thing. Anyway, we of course have to deal with the biter bases that are around here as well. This particular one I think is attacking Fortin, because it's practically on top of Fortin, and there's not really anywhere else it can go. And yeah, we want to make sure that we're dealing with the bases inside the wall as we go, though it's probably a higher priority to get the actual wall up and then worry about the rest of it later. Once the wall's in place, they can't get in anymore, and then we don't have to worry about them like recolonizing one patch of this desert while we're clearing out another. Now our issue at the moment is that we've got a large base coming up, and so it's going to take quite a bit of work to deal with it. Also, I'm quite proud of my little system here of having the car run along the belt, so I don't have to constantly keep the car up with the rest of the wall's progress. But anyway, now we've got the turrets close enough to this base that they're a good fall back location. I go in with the flamethrower and start taking it out. I definitely can't do it in one go, of course, because there's far too many worms and biters that are taking offense to my particular presence, and there's a lot of other biter bases that are in range of this one as well, just to make it more awkward. As soon as you dealt with this one, they start attacking from another one next to it. But this is the important one. Once they got this cracked, it'll be a lot easier to deal with the rest of them. And yeah, by having the turrets and the resupply system already built over here, I can just run back to this and use it to deal with the biters whenever they get a little bit too much or my shields start to run out. I realized later that I wasn't really paying attention to my battery and it was getting very low, at which point my charge rate would have got a lot lower. But anyway, we are done for today. Next episode, we'll try and finish this one, have more time for other things. And so with that, I shall say goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.